This is QFS Transportation High School Hoops, driven by Cruz Chevrolet on My TV Charleston.
What a treat we have for you today at Goose Creek High School. Maybe two of the best teams down here in the Low Country, if not the lower state. Goose Creek and Fort Dorchester, both two-time reigning region champs, matching up for the only time this year. We welcome you down courtside alongside a former college basketball hooper, Natalie Spalla. I'm Darren Goldwater. It's always a treat when you get some of the high-class athletes in one area, on one floor. That's what we have tonight. Fort Dorchester and Goose Creek could be two of the better teams here in the Low Country.
Exactly, and their records really prove that. I know Goose Creek is coming in at 12-4, Fort Dorchester on the other side 13-1. So not a lot of losses between these two teams. Really, what really separates them, I'd say, other than that success, is the experience. Fort Dorchester has a lot of seniors, a lot of guys who have played several years now at this point. Goose Creek kind of lacking that experience. That's what their coach is telling me.
Yeah, experience and depth and size. Demetrius McKelvey for Fort Dorchester could be a difference maker on the inside for the Patriots.
And that is something head coach Blake Hall has said that game plan is around. Limiting his second and limiting his third chance opportunities is going to be a big part of their success this evening.
Meanwhile, for Goose Creek, Justin Britt leads the team in just about everything. He could be the best player on the floor tonight. They're going to need more than just Britt, but we'll be paying attention a lot to Justin Britt.
Right, exactly. Points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, leads them pretty much everywhere. But another thing head coach Blake Hall told me is that he needs to be a leader as well on the floor, so expect him to be a general tonight.
Two head coaches for tonight. You've got Thomas McElvin looking sharp with the Patriots colors. He's been here for 3 years. He's lost 8 of his 50 games. He's got his squad at 13-1 for Goose Creek. Blake Hall has his group out to a 12-4 start. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. The Patriots and the Gators coming your way on QFS High School Hoops, driven by Cruz Chevrolet. Was that live or was that tape? Oh, good to know. Good to know. Oh, I'm glad we're two pros here with the table since we had absolutely no idea of that. And typically, for an open, it would be up to us. We're off to a great start. It's better to kill time coming back than kill time just throwing words out, dragging out an open. If you told me beforehand, I'd have been ready. You want to play? Let's go.
Oh my gosh. So are we in a commercial or what are we doing right now?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were just here.
Interesting.
Oh God.
Girls game ran a little long here. You had the Goose Creek team fall by, 22, 46-24 was the final as Fort Dorchester knocked off Goose Creek. So the guys have a little bit of some extended time to shoot around here a little bit. We can dig a little bit deeper into both of these rosters and what we were telling you about just a couple of moments ago to set the scene for you. We're going to start with Fort Dorchester because Natalie pointed it out. This is a much more experienced team. This is a much deeper team. This is a team that has a very balanced roster as well. They have 5 different players, Fort does, averaging between 7 and 9.5 points. Then you've got a couple more in around the 4 to 5 point range. Goose Creek is a completely different animal. They've got a couple averaging double figures, and then it really falls off. So, Natalie, when you look at these Patriots, you touched on the fact that a lot of them have been in McElveen's system for all 3 of his years. He's got 8 different seniors that are on his team. Really 7 of them play. That could be a big difference here tonight as Blake Hall, traditionally one of the better teams in the area, both of them now. But as Blake Hall has a younger group, Fort Dorchester has a group that's been together now for 3-4 years in this system.
And it's really funny because you say all that and you think Fort would definitely have the advantage. McElveen, his job would be easy, right? You would think easy peasy, throw out all your guys, but he's actually told me that he struggled this year because he has so much talent, he essentially doesn't know what to do with it. He has so many guys who deserve the minutes, and he simply can't play all the guys who deserve minutes, who are talented enough to have minutes. He says he has a lot of guys on this team that they wouldn't leave the floor if they were on any other team. It's just there's so much talent here on this side. Essentially, yeah, don't know what to do with it.
Blake Hall said earlier today, he said one of the things we're going to have to watch out for, we touched on this as well, they're playing great defensively. He's pleased with how they've come along defensively. I pointed it out. They've won 7 of the last 8 games. But what's critical is finishing those defensive possessions. When you get that first shot up and off the rim, go get that ball. What they don't have is size. What they don't have is the experienced guys on the glass that Fort Dorchester has. That's where this game could be won and lost. The ability for Blake Hall's team, the Gators, to limit Fort Dorchester to one and done.
And historically, the defense is really what they've relied on, not just this year, but in years past. I think Hall mentioned more than a decade is essentially what their defense has really been at the root of this team. And talking to Coach McElveen, he says that they've only beaten the Gators once in, I believe, 10 years. So kind of interesting. He says not always were the Gators the better team on the floor in terms of talent, but they just know how to show up. And maybe that will be the factor in this one tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because what McElveen also said today, he said, we're still fighting for respect. And it took me aback a little. I said, you're 13-1. You're mostly regarded as one of the better teams down in this area. He said, well, hang on. Fort Dorchester is known as a football school. There's been success on the basketball court, men and women. There's been plenty of baseball success. There's been success in a lot of other athletic programs. But the way they're approaching this year and the way he's approached his now 3-year tenure is we're fighting for respect here, and we still have to play with that chip on our shoulder because Fort Dorchester, even though this basketball team has a bunch of football guys, it's not just a football school. They want to make a name for themselves as a basketball powerhouse, too.
I was thinking the same because it sounds like it's more of like a college environment here. Oh, we're a football school. We're a football school. No, McElveen wants it to be known that, yes, we're a basketball school, too. We've got some guys that, yes, they are actually a lot of football players as well, but they can do both. Why not, right?
Actually, we have some of the better football players in the area on this floor. We could. It's unfortunate that Demetrius Simmons for Goose Creek, he tore his ACL a couple weeks into the basketball season. Simmons, if you didn't pay attention to Low Country High School football, one of the better running backs in the area, didn't get an offer until very late in the process. He'll be heading to SC State, along with the guy we will see tonight, Jaden Johnson. We're going to hear a lot from Johnson. I won't spoil the surprise, but I'll say around halftime we'll hear a little bit more from Jaden Johnson as well. But there's some of the better football talent. Those are 2 for Goose Creek. For Fort Dorchester, you've heard of Davion Joyner. You've heard of Omar Green. McKelvey is another one of the football guys. It just shows you the type of athletes that we're dealing with on the floor tonight. Guys who, look, if you're asking me, it's beneficial to play multiple sports. These guys are getting that experience, and it'll just benefit them down the road.
And I asked McElveen, is this normal? Do you guys always get a bunch of football players on your team? And he said no, it's really just been in years past. And I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that he was a football coach. He was on that football squad before he transitioned over to basketball. So, I mean, when you find athletes, it doesn't matter what sport they play. You know that they're competitors, so you want them to be on your team. So I got to commend him for that.
I'll give you a little bit of background on both of these coaches. Clearly there are some college ties to both of them. I'll start you out with Fort Dorchester. for McElveen, there wasn't much college coaching there, but there was a lot in the AAU circuit, and one of his closest friends is Earl Grant, the former College of Charleston coach. They graduated Stall High School together. They've been tight since they were in the 7th grade, and apparently they were on the phone this morning before we were on the phone together, and they exchange ideas pretty regularly. And one of the things that McElveen was telling me, he said one of the things that we have to deal with here is a motto that you can see on the back of their warm-up shirts. It's FAM. It's forget about me, because there is so much talent. There is so much ability up and down this roster. And he was talking with Earl Grant, now the head coach of Boston College. He said, you probably don't have to deal with some of this stuff at the college level. Grant's response was, you'd be surprised. A lot of what you deal with up here is similar to what you're dealing with down there, and those lessons that you learned in AAU ball, and you can talk to this. I mean, you played AAU ball, you played up in collegiate ball as well. Those lessons you learn, the similarities in coaching and playing, they carry through level to level.
100%, and I think that really goes back to the fact that these guys, at the end of the day, they're coaches of young men before they're coaches. They want to make sure that they're preparing these guys really for that next step, which is college. And it doesn't matter whether they're going on to play college ball, whether they're going on to just do school and everything. They just want to make sure these guys are best prepared for the next level, which is just graduating.
Tip-off coming up. Two of the best teams in the area, QFS Transportation High School Hoops.
I thought I heard him count down, and I was like, I don't know if he so okay.
It's hard to hear.
I will not, yeah. No, I can, yeah. I'm sorry. What channel is this? ABC4. Yeah. Yeah, can you explain what these are?
Uh-oh. That's your talkback. So when you want to talk to the truck, I don't think he can hear us when our mics are just hot like this. But if you hit talkback.
Okay.
So mine's reversed. Typically you do that and this, but
okay.
Talk to him. If you talk to him now, he can hear you there.
Cool. Probably should have told that girl not ABC4, but my TV Charleston. Oh well.
Eight seniors on this Fort Dorchester team. Goose Creek's got 3 of them. Both of them have been playing good ball. Goose Creek comes in at 12-4. They've won 3 straight. They've won 7 of their last 8. They just beat Berkeley 70-36. That was eye-opening to me. Berkeley hasn't won a game yet this year. Fort Dorchester on the other side of things, they're 13-1. They're 1-0 in region play. Both teams are. So both teams have played 1 region game, jumping back for a non-region contest. But Natalie, this one's going to help both of them down the road. If these two teams are going to have successful seasons, be around the top of the pack in region, 7-5A if you're Goose Creek, 8-5A if you're Fort Dorchester. It's one of those measuring stick games, maybe even more so for Goose Creek, to see how they stack up against a very talented and deep Fort Dorchester team.
And that's what head coach Blake Hall mentioned earlier. He said, we're far enough into this season where it shouldn't matter. Things should be clicking. Things should be really as great as they can be. I know it takes a few games at the start of that season to kind of get things ramped up, make sure that chemistry is flowing. But at this point, it doesn't matter if these are juniors, if these are seniors, if they're sophomores. I mean, everything should be as good as it gets right now, so we're just going to have to see if they show up.
Omar Green They call him Sleepy, just introduced here for Fort Dorchester. The reason they call him Sleepy is because of some acceleration. He said, you know, if you just watch him play, if you watch him on film a little bit, you see it there, and then bang, right? To use a John Madden thing, the late, great John Madden. Boom, there he goes. That's something that Omar Green brings. This is Demetrius McKelvey, who we just told you about. He is going to be a factor here. Not only is he getting 7 boards a game, it's about 2.5 offensive rebounds a game as well for Demetrius McKelvey. But again, this is a team that can go 10 or 11 deep. Goose Creek will want to run with them. Both coaches told me a very similar thing. Blake Hall said, I know they're going to pressure us. I know we want to attack that pressure. Thomas McElveen said, I expect them to run. I think that will play into our hands. I think that will tire them out. The middle point there is going to be one of the areas to watch in this game as well. If both teams are running, once you get to that midpoint, who can dictate the remaining tempo of the game? Walik Walker, 7.5 points, 4.5 boards per game. Shane Potts, rocking the specs.
The freshman. The only freshman to start in the 10-year tenure at Goose Creek for Blake Hall. He said he's as talented a freshman as he's had in 11 years coaching high school ball. And if you don't know Blake Hall's story, we gave you some of McElveen's background. Blake Hall was a graduate assistant at the Citadel in 2008 when Ed Conroy and Doug Novak, they got that team to 20 wins, one of the best seasons in Citadel history. From there, Blake got the head job at North Charleston. They won a state championship in his only season at North Charleston. And what Blake said to me opened my eyes today. He said, you know why that was the greatest thing to happen to me? He said, I woke up the next morning thinking this can't be it. I can't sit around just chasing titles. It's got to be about more than just that. It has to be about the kids. There has to be more to coaching than just chasing rings. That revelation, a couple weeks later, the Goose Creek opening has led him to here and a successful 10-year run with these Gators. McKelvey's going to jump it up with Taylor. And for Dorchester, stepped on the sideline there. Chauncey Capers gets the start. What McElveen does, he said he never knows in the morning who's going to start. Coaches say that. He probably had a pretty good idea. But he tries to match up with what he sees on film, and he says that's one of the benefits of a deep and talented roster that he has, the fact that he can have a rotating starting 5. Here's the freshman Potts, who we just told you about. Spins and travels. The turnover for the Gators matches the turnover for the Patriots. And that's just the worst nightmare for an opposing coach that's looking to scout a team, not knowing their starting 5 essentially until the starting 5 is on the court. And McElveen says a lot of that goes back to just AAU and really football as well. You don't have a lot of time to coach or to prep and really scout these other teams, and that helps him out now here.
Omar Green skies up and leaves one underneath for McKelvey, but he traveled first. McKelvey did. 3 possessions, 3 turnovers here, and a bit of a sluggish start 30 seconds in.
It's a good pass. Dribble penetration, defenders, they step up. Wide open guy. And go right.
McKelvey was averaging a double-double, and he was getting about 5 blocks a game as well. That was true for the first couple of weeks of the season. He's only at 3.5 blocks, 9 points, and 7 boards now. Still stuffing the stat sheet as you get a find from Potts underneath. Taylor has the opening too.
It's a great backdoor cut right there.
Davion Joyner. Now to Chauncey Capers. Capers may not have the size, but boy does he have the quicks and the ability to lead this team as McPherson rims one off. Shooting from distance is not the strength of this Patriots team. They've missed twice, but their 3rd opportunity here, McKelvey finger rolls it in for the tie.
And that's not what you want to see if you're Blake Hall. You knew going into this game a big point of emphasis was rebounding and limiting those 2nd and 3rd chance opportunities. They just got 3 chances right there, and they're making 2 points out of it.
We just spent 15 minutes talking about those
Right.
second and third chance opportunities. And that's how the Patriots get their first bucket. Now they've got a turnover. Look at the quicks here for Capers, although he gets a bit out of control, and that actually leads to a foul on the freshman Potts. He's bailed out there on the shoulder into the chin.
Here's that backdoor cut.
Senior Joyner triggers it into another senior McKelvey. Capers the lone junior on the floor for Fort Dorchester. McElveen says he plays a lot bigger than he is, and there he goes zipping right around Duante Taylor. As the ball movement finds an open Omar Green, and another offensive rebound here for Fort Dorchester. So play call sphere is being realized early on in this game. Second chance opportunity leads to two more for Tavion McPherson and a chance at a three-point play.
This is really just great ball movement by the Patriots. McKelvey said his team does not lack chemistry whatsoever, and you can see it right there. Each player knows where their guy is going to be, and it leads to an easy two.
65% free throw shooter for the year, the 6'3" senior McPherson. A Wildu Gray Opportunity School free throw, a rich tradition of individualized learning at Wildu Gray. That backdoor cut works out for him again. Initially it was Taylor the beneficiary. Now he dishes it off to Justin Britt. First two of the game for the leading scorer for the Gators. Capers knifes one inside. McKelvey high off the window. Two more for McKelvey. He's got four.
And McElveen said that's one of the things he does amazing. He's great at finding gaps. Little guy, big heart out there, but you can really see it in these first few minutes of this game.
McElveen said you just see it on film. Not many guys can guard him. He's been in front of some D1 guys, and even they can't stay in front of him. It's an offensive rebound, falls down to Walker for the Gators. Trailing 7-4, a clean look for Elijah Dates. McKelvey lost it off the floor. Taylor up strong, he's turned away. And we've got a jump ball. Davion Joyner ties Taylor up underneath, and the possession arrow will favor Fort Dorchester.
It's just a great effort play, not giving up. Looks like an easy layup there.
I lost count of how many times McElveen in our conversation today said, man, this guy can jump. He can get up. You're seeing it on display here in the opening quarter as another two falls for McKelvey, a mid-range jumper. He's got 6 of the 9 for Fort Dorchester.
And McElveen says he normally will end games scoring a double-double. It's already looking really good.
We'll do our best to keep track of points. It won't be as easy to keep track of the rebounds for McKelvey and company. But he has 6 and he averages 9 from a point standpoint. Halfway through the opening quarter, there's another lane on the backdoor cut as Taylor feeds to Dates in the corner, and McElvey cleans it up. The name Joyner sounds familiar, as in DeCarrion, the MVP of the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Two of his cousins are on the floor, Omar Green and Davion Joyner. They got a foul here on McKelvey. Timeout on the floor. We told you McKelvey could have an impact in this game. He has 6 of the 9 for Fort Dorchester.
I was going to start talking about Joyner so badly. I didn't because...
Sure.
Oh yeah, what are these? I didn't do this again.
Limit second chance. And knock down some of the open looks. But Goose Creek, well.
For Goose, yeah.
Well, I guess but both of those would be for Goose Creek.
Okay, never mind. I can, wait, do we come up with 3 for each or just 1 for each?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
There's no rules.
That's true. Because Fort told me their keys of the game were just stay in control what you can control, all that good stuff.
Goose Creek had the opening bucket, 5 straight points for Fort Dorchester, now a 9-4 lead for the Patriots, keyed by Demetrius McKelvey. Something to keep in mind, he does have a personal foul here, just about 4 minutes gone by in this game. Same rules as college if you're wondering, 5 fouls allowed. Meanwhile, Blake Hall's group, Natalie, has had some open looks. They're the team that shoots it better from distance. They're happy to take those threes, but they haven't been able to knock them down.
No, and sometimes that starts on the defense. You get some stops on defense that can lead to some really good offense, but that is where we've seen them struggle so far. Blake Hall said a lot of the emphasis on today's game will be limiting those second and third chance opportunities, and we've seen some spurts right here where that just hasn't been the case.
How about our Cruise Chevrolet keys to the game?
I'm going to say for this Goose Creek team is really what I just said, and I know we've already said it a few times so far this evening, is doing what you can to box out, do the things that are tough, because this team is a scrappy Patriots team. They want to get in the paint, they want to work hard, and they want to rebound, whether that's on defense or offense, and we've already seen them walk away with a lot of offensive boards so far.
Wow, look at Capers go end to end, a little bit strong in front of the rim. Another second chance opportunity converted for Demetrius McKelvey. He's got 8. Natalie, it feels like 7 or 8 of these 11 points for Fort Dorchester, if not all 11, are second chance points.
I don't think we've seen, we haven't seen a jumper so far this evening.
Nope.
It's all been in the paint. It's all been from a foot or 2 outside.
Walker works for it, comes up a little bit short. McKelvey cleans it up. Chauncey Capers fires away and rims it out. Britt's up above the rim.
That's a good looking shot. Dribble penetration deep in, finds his guy on the outside. And again, that goes back to this team really just knowing each other, knowing what each one of them brings to the table. I had a feeling he knew Capers was going to be waiting for that one in the corner.
Spinning his way down is Elijah Dates. McKelvey seems as though he's getting every ball off that rim. No foul on the hard fall. Omar Green slow to get up. Gators don't have numbers. They'll reset their offense. Down 7, 2 minutes left in the quarter. Here's Taylor now stepping into a deep 3, a needed one for Goose Creek.
Very needed right there. That was the loudest this crowd's been tonight. They needed a 3 out of their guys. Good find in the open man, a good closeout. He's got some distance on that one, a few feet behind that arc.
As Fort Dorchester tried to pressure it up the floor, Potts picked up his second foul, so he goes to the bench without scoring. For the Gators, Taylor has 5 of the 7. And for the Patriots, McKelvey has 8 of the 11. Gators showing a double team on McKelvey underneath.
Capers is not afraid to drive. Smallest guy on the court, I'd say.
Absolutely. He's at just 5'6". Look at that leaner from Elijah Dates. He's on the board. And that's 5 straight now for the Gators.
Smart move by him. No one defended him. Saw open lane. Might as well take it.
ball movement's been excellent for the Patriots, as has their offensive rebounding. 2 straight trips down the floor doesn't result in an extra opportunity, and now a foul after Dates cleaned up the loose ball. That's on McKelvey.
You'd think by the way this Patriots team has played so far that they'd be up by a lot more, but these Gators 2 points behind.
Let's check that. They gave that to Daniel Lee, 12, not 13. That's a break for Dorchester to keep McKelvey on the floor. McPherson guards the ball, weaving through his walker, and the first run for the Gators knots the score. 7 straight, ties it up at 11.
This Patriots team wastes no time getting down the floor, but also smart move. Daniel Lee pulling the ball out when he knows he doesn't have guys with him.
Marion Mitchell now, the leaner from just inside the free throw line, falls down to McKelvey. And the big man getting it done on the inside again. He'll head to the free throw line. First foul on Elijah Dates. Another Will Lou Gray free throw. Rich tradition of individualized learning. I tell you what, if you combine Blake Hall's hair and the suit of Thomas McElveen, I mean, we have an American Idol contestant, or not American Idol, Bachelor. That's where I'm going. Bachelor.
There you go. Okay.
More ABC News 4 content. Bachelor does hair on ABC.
Maybe we can pan down to the shoes. I feel like we're doing a disservice to the whole ensemble over there. Because he's got some red shoes on.
He does.
Head to toe. He came prepared tonight.
It's sharp. You give credit where it's due. It's sharp.
There we go. Thank you for this. Head to toe.
Now the second on McKelvey. McKelvey has 10 of the 13 Patriot points. He's got 2 fouls, and that one comes with 3 seconds left in the first quarter. So how much will McElveen use his big man, Demetrius McKelvey, in the second quarter? Taylor's been carrying Goose Creek. That's 6 now for him.
And it's a good thing that this Patriots team is as deep as they come.
Mm-hmm.
One guy gets himself in some foul trouble, and there's the next guy ready to step up. Although you hate to see McKelvey head to the bench, of course.
It's even more unfortunate that that foul comes with 2.9 seconds left in the quarter. One thing that's encouraging, last week, as part of our 6-game schedule here, there's a heave from Geddes at the horn. Neither team could really hit free throws last week. Both teams have started well from the Will Lou Gray free throw line. And the game has started off well as well. QFS Transportation High School Hoops, 2 of the top teams in the Low Country. They're locked at 13 through 8 minutes of play, driven by Cruz Chevrolet.
Oh my gosh, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
The guy at the... Oh, did you talk to Gary? It looks like you did.
Gary.
Stats guy over there.
Yep.
He said he was going to be sending us to us. know what we're doing at halftime now?
Nope.
Okay.
We'll be live or we won't be live. Alongside Natalie Spalla, I'm Darren Goldwater. The question now is, what's in store for the next 8 minutes? The first 8 minutes dominated by Demetrius McKelvey, both on the glass and from a scoring standpoint for Fort Dorchester. 10 of the 13 points for the Patriots are for the big man for McElveen. He picks up his second foul with 3 seconds left in that opening quarter. So how does that change the strategy for the Patriots? And meanwhile for the Gators, they started settling things down, a little bit more balanced, but Taylor Duante had about half of their 13.
And this is a team that relies on their defense, and that was really something that wasn't very strong. I mean, you're surprised that they're really tied with this team, and I think their offense did come alive down the stretch, which is great for them, important as well. But they rely on their defense, so I'm waiting to see that kind of become an aspect in this one, them stepping up, them, again, limiting those second and third chance opportunities. But we're going to have to see if that's a big part of this team, and we're going to need them to essentially step it up.
Without McKelvey on the floor, Fort Dorchester has gone small. They have Camden Crummy that had been on the floor. Chauncey Capers is out there as well. There's Crummy guarding the ball. Goose Creek has held one lead. It was at 2-0. They trailed by as many as 7 before rattling off 7 straight to tie it at 11. And then a couple of alternating free throws for Goose Creek and Fort Dorchester. Locked it back up at 13 after a quarter. Into the corner for Taylor, and an offensive board now for Potts. He's playing with 2 fouls. And a kick out 3 for Dates. 5 now for Dates. And 5 straight points for Goose Creek.
Heck of a rebound by the freshman Potts. Now this team takes the lead for the first time, I believe, tonight.
Look at that leaner. That rims out from Camden Crummy, another 5'6" junior out there. But without McKelvey on the floor, that's 3 or 4 straight trips down the floor, even though he was on the floor for a couple of them, that they haven't had a second chance opportunity.
Funny how that happened, right?
They wanted Potts on the backdoor cut. Instead, Crummy comes away with it, pushes it up to McKelvey, and he's heading to the line. Duante Taylor will get whistled for it.
Elijah Dates ready for that one. He's fired up, and maybe that's the spark this team needs. You always hear about defense turning into offense, but maybe the offense is where things can get a little bit of a spark.
Second trip to the line for McPherson. He hit his first one from the Will Lou Gray free throw stripe. Remember, Patriots are 13-1 on the year. Their depth features 5 players that average between 7 and 9.5 points. Goose Creek has 3 players in double figures from an average standpoint, and then it falls off after that. Britt nearly saved it back in. Instead, it goes to Green, who pushes it up ahead. And Potts comes down with it. So Goose Creek is rolling with their freshman Potts with 2 fouls on the floor. The Patriots and McKelvey, a different story. Gliding in, circling it through his Dates. And it's an 18-13 lead, 7 straight points for Goose Creek. It's a 7-1 run, we should say, 18-14.
And Dates has really become that spark that this team needs. You can kind of see it now on defense too. Everyone is where they need to be. Everyone kind of playing with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder now on this Goose Creek side.
Speaking of a chip, nice little glare from Geddes. He's in the game for McKelvey.
Nice take to the basket. Defender comes out too quick, taking baseline.
Here's Geddes, another one of the Patriot football players who fights his way up through Britt. Gators campaigning for a held ball. They're not going to get it. Instead, they'll get the foul on Justin Britt. We pointed out he leads the team in virtually every category. Britt right now saddled with 2 points. And that's about it. But Goose Creek, we said, you're going to need more than just Britt, and they've been getting more than just Britt for this lead right now.
And a lot of that goes back to Elijah Dates. And he was one of the guys that Blake Hall said needs to be a leader. This team is a team that doesn't really have many leaders. I mean, they're all juniors. They don't have that senior leadership that we see kind of on that Patriots side. So Hall said he's really waiting for a guy to step up. Sometimes it's Britt, sometimes it's Dates. There's a few guys that have the potential to be leaders out here. He just says it matters kind of what the night is. Who wants to take over that spot?
Bit out of control, the ball nearly out of bounds. Patriots save it in, lob it up ahead to Davion Joyner, and they're within one.
He's kind of telling his guys, okay, let's settle down now.
Goose Creek isn't afraid to run right at this pressure, but they've turned it over on back-to-back possessions doing just that. It leads to Patriot runouts and a rejection off the glass from Taylor.
This Goose Creek team is just playing with some more fight now.
Traveling violation on Malik Walker.
Yeah, and Crumney getting his hands in there. And this is a team that pushes the floor. Speaking with both of these coaches, neither of them said that transition points or transition basketball is really what they thrive at, but both teams have been pushing that ball up the floor, and guys are running their lanes. If that's the case, hey, give it to them.
If this gets into more of an up and down, lack of offensive sets, it's called street ball for lack of a better term.
All right.
That'll favor the Patriots. That's something Goose Creek wants to avoid, an up and down style of play, because the Patriots are just a deeper team. That's now 3 points for Devin Geddes on the floor because McKelvey has a couple of fouls, and the lead now back into the hands of the Patriots. Gliding and missing the finger roll, Trey Baylor. Charles Baylor III, he goes by Trey, for obvious reasons. Possession arrow favors Goose Creek. Gators got a timeout as well.
There's Devin Geddes getting in there. Sometimes those football bodies are what you need down low. Mac Levine calls him a freakish athlete. He can do it all.
Patriots led 11-4 about midway through the opening quarter. And then a run that spanned to the early stages of this quarter was a 14-3 run that had Goose Creek up 18-14 since it's 5 straight for Dorchester. So back and forth. The runs tell you the story of this game, and similar to the runs, Natalie, the style of play. When Goose Creek has gone on their runs, they've been settled on offense. They've pushed past the press, found a rhythm offensively. When it's gotten a little bit back and forth, that's when Fort Dorchester's come back on their end.
Right, and we've seen kind of them replicate each other. Fort Dorchester was pushing the ball, those long half-court passes to each other. We saw Goose Creek return with one of their own. So they're doing a great job of really finding themselves, but also doing exactly what their opponent's doing. So they're just kind of answering each other back and forth. It's been great to see so far.
Davion Joyner swats this one out of play. It'll stay with Goose Creek.
Nope, not today.
Davion was almost flat-footed when he left there.
I was going to say, he was ready to go.
Can Britt get on track? He drives in on Daniel Lee. That one's going to find the bottom of the hole. Britt has 4.
And that's their team's Batman. I don't know much about superheroes and all that, but I think we all know you want to be the Batman on your team.
Enough of being the Robin, right?
Right,
when it's your turn to lead, you can be Batman.
And that's what head coach Blake Hall wants and needs from him tonight.
How about Geddes? Geddes in off the bench. He now has 5, and the big men combined have 15 of the 21 points for Fort Dorchester.
And this goes back to just them being as deep as can be. One guy gets in trouble, you step up. You might not get as much playing time as you want or even maybe deserve, but when it's your time to go, you're ready to go.
A little bit of a step-back 3 there for Dates, and an offensive rebound knocked off the floor by Geddes.
Geddes getting his hands in there.
Hamlet goes down, and he's tied up. We'll stay on this end.
There's just no quit out of this Patriot team.
Timeout on the floor. Back and forth we go. Patriots have only suffered 1 loss on the season. Gators have won 7 of their last 8. And it's a 1-point game on QFS High School Hoops. Nick said, must have been a Dean thing?
A what thing?
He said Blake's shirt under his blazer says must have been a Dean thing.
What does that mean?
Like, I'm guessing Dean Smith, but I don't know. But it's also like white and red, so I also don't know.
Right. I don't know who that is. Oh, that's nice. First quarter.
He said it'd just be points.
He said points. Yeah, just points.
Okay. I think I'm right.
Yeah, how do you go about doing this?
Years of it. The fun thing is once you get up to like bigger productions.
Oh, they just hand it to you, don't
Well,
they?
you have a talent stats guy over here,
Right.
so like you're working together.
That's cool.
There are a lot of working parts,
I like
and
that.
all those guys are always amazed. They're like, what are you doing? We're doing this. I'm like, yeah, but I'm used to it.
Insane.
The question was, how would the game plan change for Dorchester if McKelvey sits this quarter with a couple of fouls? The answer is not a whole lot. They want to go up and get second chance points. They want to feed it to the inside. And Devin Geddes has been providing the inside punch in the absence of McKelvey. And it's a 21-20 lead right now for Fort Dorchester.
And were we surprised by that? After talking to McLevine earlier this week, I'm really not surprised. He told me that his job is, easy most days because his guys know each other. They have that experience that has really been built over the past few years. But it makes it tough when you have so many guys that deserve more playing time that just don't get the minutes. But look at Geddes getting his time tonight.
Now you got a little bit of size to match up with him here for Goose Creek. Blake Hall has gone to Jaden Johnson, his 6'5" senior. Johnson's the decoy. He goes to the corner to open up space for Taylor, and the ball finds Johnson in the corner. Here's Waleek Walker. He's cut off in the paint. Deep three, launched by Dates and connected on by Dates. Dates right at his average. He's got 10.
This crowd is feeling it now.
Justin Britt gets his hands on it. Patriots keep, and it'll be reset here by Chauncey Capers. Inside 3 minutes to play here in the opening half. Goose Creek still playing a man. Patriots having to work for everything. That ball's knocked out of bounds. It'll stay on this end. We discussed last week about a shot clock in high school basketball. This is one of those instances where the defense has won this possession, but it continues to last.
And we went back and speaking earlier, we said this is not what we want, or not what the Goose Creek team wants, because over there on the Patriot bench, they have no shortage of bodies, no shortage of guys that can be thrown in when a guy gets tired, even if it's for a minute, if it's for 2 minutes. They can't say the same over there on Goose Creek.
We've had 6 different lead changes and a bunch of different runs going both ways. Hanging in the air, Omar Green, he's short on that one, and it's collected in the corner by Shane Potts. First freshman to start for Goose Creek in the 10 years that Blake Hall has been here. And he could shoot. You haven't seen it yet here today, but his shooting percentages are off the chart in really every facet.
By the looks of it, it looks like he has some ball handling skills as well there. Saw him taking the ball up the court.
Largest lead has been 7 when Fort Dorchester led at 11-4. It's really balanced out since then. I think Britt got his hand on that one. It'll stay with McPherson and the Patriots. Britt's getting a lot of attention, probably the most attention of anybody on this floor in terms of next level basketball. 6'4" junior, probably in the high mid-major range right now. Maybe with development, maybe he could go a little bit higher than that, but he certainly has the attention of that level of coaches. Penetration from Omar Green draws a foul with 1:24 left.
You really see kind of this Patriot offense begin to shift. It's a lot more of isolation, let me take the ball to the basket. They're kind of shading away from let me penetrate, let me kick out, let me get 1 or 2 or 3 passes in there before looking for a shot.
Will Lou Gray Opportunity School, a rich tradition of individualized learning. They present the free throws. This time from Omar Green, a 55% free throw shooter. I think one of the reasons this team can be so deep, and McElveen has the ability to rotate through. I think both of them use the term positionless basketball. It's kind of in vogue right now in basketball. But a lot of the guys are similar in their skill sets. Quick acceleration, got some hops, better around the rim. Here's Justin Britt off the mark. And it'll stay with Goose Creek. Blake Hall said this would be a good test for his guys. 2 teams that have won back-to-back region championships in their respective regions. But Fort's deeper, they're older. It's a fact, it's not just an opinion from Hall. Also a fact that Britt got hit right there without a call, but the ball falls down to Walker, and he circles that thing through from close range for a 4-point lead.
I really think that their offense has helped out their defense. You see them benches up, benches loving it over there.
They get a 5-second, they almost did. Instead they got a foul all the way out around midcourt. It'll be Amlin. And that'll be a 1-and-1 with 44 seconds left.
Omar finds the rim on that one after missing his last 2.
First points for him.
This is the guy McElveen says, he looks lax. He looks like he's not giving 110% out there, but he can turn it on quickly. I wish I was that athletic. You know, you look like you're not trying, but it's just a walk in the park at the end of the day.
Right, like if you're a Porsche, right? 0 to 60 in 4 seconds or something.
Right.
Amlett now into a double team, has it knocked away. It was Green who got a hand on it. It's a 4-on-1. Capers gets himself deep. McPherson on the offensive glass rolls it off. And that's something Goose Creek has been able to limit ever since they were down 7 early. They've cleaned up the defensive rebounding. And this time a second chance opportunity will come at the line for Tavion McPherson.
Once again, Patriots proven that a big chunk of their game, or really what they have the potential to do out there, is run in transition. You get your hands in there, get the ball, steal. Everyone knows exactly where they're going. They are running their lanes. They're going to try to get some easy points out of it. Or in this case, an easy foul.
Potts checks back in. Goose Creek hoping for the final offensive possession. If there's a maker, they can clean up a defensive board. McPherson's last 3 points have now come at the free throw line. He has 5. And Goose Creek will hold, ideally, for the final possession of the opening half. You'd think they will. Except working down deep is Malik Walker. Capers chases Tates back to the mid-court stripe. Britt, as time winds down, doesn't find the range. Never really did find the range in the opening half. But if you were to tell Goose Creek's coach Blake Hall or their fans that Britt would have 4 points in the opening half and they would take a 1-point lead into the half, I think they'd all sign up for that.
100%.
25-24. Goose Creek leads Fort Dorchester, trying to hand the Patriots just their second loss of the year on QFS Transportation. High school hoops driven by Cruz Chevrolet. Copy. No, it's fine. Sometimes these games are tough because
Alongside David Ayler with the Ayler Law Offices, we just gave out our scholar.
sloppy nonsense.
Alongside David Ayler with the Ayler Law Offices, we just gave out our Scholar Athlete for football. Now we're on to basketball, $2,500 to the winner of this season. And this season, another crop of really good, really smart kids representing the low country.
Yeah, and it's excellent with obviously still having some issues with the pandemic, but we're going to have a great season, hopefully not too many cancellations, and really continue to see these guys and girls thrive.
No doubt about it. We just had one. Leo Albano, a couple of years ago, was our Scholar Athlete, played basketball for Bishop England. We actually interviewed him at a BE basketball game, just finishing up at Notre Dame, was in the Fiesta Bowl, a chemical engineering major. That is what we like to see.
Yeah, those are the type of people, and almost all of them end up in that same position where they truly succeed.
Absolutely. David Ayler with the Ayler Law Offices presenting our Scholar Athlete.
You don't need us. All right, so just a little break.
I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing?
That is what we're doing. Nothing.
Okay.
I'll talk for like 10 seconds and throw it to break at some point.
Okay.
Fort Dorchester jumped out to an 11-4 lead, largely due to second chance opportunities. Then a huge 14-3 run for Goose Creek had them on top. A first half that features 6 lead changes ends with a 25-24 lead for the home team, the Gators, on QFS Transportation. High school hoops driven by Cruz Chevrolet. When I got the call from CBS, it was, Darren, you're the last call we're making. He said, I don't want to make this call. He said, I've been told by the higher-ups that they want a different look.
What is that?
It's like, copy.
They want a different look for something that you're doing play-by-play?
Yep. Yep. So I was like, all right.
Shut up. No way.
At least they're honest. I mean, I respected the honesty.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, you want someone to be honest, but
Yep.
also, what the hell?
Yep. And I had guys like Tony, the producer.
Yeah.
I had the 4 producers I regularly work with. They all went to bat. And they all got the same answer back. They're like,
What?
sorry, dude. Yeah.
What the heck?
But hey, it was a good run.
But hey.
On camera first or no? A 1-point lead for Goose Creek and a chance to introduce you to our David Ayler Law Offices and Riders Law Group Scholar Athletes. Each week we introduce you to a couple of them. The students have an opportunity to win a $2,500 scholarship at the end of the season. And tonight's athletes are first for Goose Creek. I told you we're going to hear a little bit more about Jaden Johnson at the half. He's got a 3.4 GPA. Johnson, just like his teammate who is not in this game because of an ACL, Demetrius Simmons, they're both heading to SC State to play football, but he also sports a 3.4 GPA, reads to elementary school students as well. For Fort Dorchester, it's Davion Joyner. We've heard a lot from him in this game. He's got a 4.1 GPA. Joyner, of course, one of 2 cousins of DeCarrion Joyner, who we've seen in this game. 4.1 GPA. He's all-state in both football and basketball. Davion Joyner. Both of them have an opportunity to win a $2,500 scholarship at the end of the season. We bring you back courtside now along with Natalie Spalla. I'm Darren Goldwater. So some of the impressions there of the first half.
Really, we got what we really expected. We knew these were 2 of the best teams right here in the Low Country. We knew it was going to be an athletic and a physical game. A little slow start for Goose Creek on the offensive side, but once that really started, their defense also started as well. We always talk about defense turning into offense, but I think for tonight, it's really that offense turning into defense, and you can see it with this 1-point game.
We'll get a look at some of these first half highlights here, and we're going to start here for Goose Creek. Justin Britt.
Just a good pass. I mean, we've seen that many times tonight, too. Great passes, great cutting. You move without the ball, and sometimes that's where things really click.
13 is Demetrius McKelvey. He was a storyline for the first quarter. 10 points until he picked up his second foul, and then it was a different Fort Dorchester team. Goose Creek was able to take advantage for a time.
And McKelvey was a big part of course, that first half, or that first quarter. We didn't see him in the second quarter, but expect him to really come out, play with, I mean, everything now that it's the second half, but a big part of that team. But like we said, this team is so deep on this Patriots side. We saw Geddes come right in and play his role, and really it was a smooth transition. Nice timing on deep, as you saw Elijah Dates hit one from, I don't know, Monk's Corner, where the Goose Creek head coach Blake Hall is from. Back and forth game, 6 different lead changes in the opening half. Second half around this time out on QFS Transportation. High school hoops driven by Cruz Chevrolet. I make no sense sometimes. So a lot of times you'll see with highlights, you did well there. I was gonna say, so I expected it's like hard to go. A lot of times you'll see.
Thomas McElveen led by Demetrius McKelvey's 10 points. When McKelvey went out, it was Devin Geddes picking up the slack on the inside with 5. Those are your leading scorers, along with 5 for Tavion McPherson for Fort Dorchester. Meanwhile, for Goose Creek, they got 10 from Elijah Dates, including that deep 3 that you saw. In fact, he hit a couple of threes in that first half. Also, Dante Taylor with 7 for Goose Creek. That shirt says, "Love your neighbor," on Blake Hall's chest. So similar philosophies in a sense.
Right.
FAM is the motto for the Patriots. Forget about me and love your neighbor. So you could tie those two together.
I like it.
Time for the second half. Alongside Natalie Spalla of ABC News 4, you can catch her anchoring or handling sports or producing.
All the above. Just toss me in.
That's what we're doing here. I'm Darren Goldwater. Goose Creek up 1. Fort Dorchester starts the second half with the ball. See how McKelvey warms his way back into the action as Capers takes the action to Goose Creek and picks up a foul here to begin this second half. That'll be Dante Taylor's 3rd foul.
And he is just not afraid. Just put it simply, he will sacrifice his body out there. He's a guy Coach McElveen says is the floor general. I can say that it's definitely been the case tonight.
Capers still hasn't scored, but he's not really out there to score. He averages about 5 points a game, but the way this game has gone, his job is floor general. His job is to create the tempo, create the offense, get him into it, and then distribute.
I think that's, he's done great so far just doing that, finding the gaps. He's small enough to find the gaps, so you got to give him credit for really kind of playing to his strengths.
Tied up at 25. A 2-on-1 was there briefly for Goose Creek. Instead, they turn it over.
Nice
Davion
back.
Joyner flies it up ahead, and Omar Green finishes. He's got 3.
I got to give props to David Lee there. He prevented that, what looked to be an easy layup, but he sprinted back, found the guy in the paint, led to that turnover, and 2 points the other way.
By and large, the pressure hasn't really bothered Goose Creek. Blake Hall said it today. He said, we're going to come right at that pressure. The question is, can we then get into our stuff?
Right. And that's what Hall said. The winner of this one will be who can be poised, who can remain in control. There you go, Omar Green taking control of that one.
Daniel Lee was whistled for that foul. Here's Britt. Long rebound, batted around. And it goes over to the Patriots.
Britt couldn't have got a better shot off there. He had lots of space out there on the perimeter.
Shots haven't really fallen except for Elijah Dates, at least from perimeter.
Right.
I don't believe Fort Dorchester has a 3, and that's not really their game. Although McElveen will tell you they can shoot the 3, but because they get so many points off turnovers, that's just not really what shows up on the stat sheets. Here's Potts now stepping into a 3 and drilling it. He hits 50% from distance for the season, and he's created our 8th lead change of the game.
He knew that one was going in. Sometimes you just know as a shooter. He was confident.
His first 3 points of the game, he had 2 quick fouls. And then Blake Hall went back to him. He came into the game in the second quarter with those 2 fouls and played a lot of the second quarter. And a timeout here for Fort Dorchester.
And we've seen Potts kind of do it all. He was in the paint sometimes on the tall guys. He was out here on the smallest guy on the floor.
I said to Coach Hall, I said, man, you look at these freshmen's numbers. He's hitting 61% of his 2s, 50% of his 3s, and he's 27 of 29 from the line, and he laughed. And he said, you know, as a coach, I need to do a better job of getting him the ball more. He said he's got to take more shots, even though he's taking a bunch of shots for him. He's the 2nd leading scorer on the team, but he's only a freshman. There's still a lot of learning curve to be had and handled for Shane Potts.
And that stretches across this whole team. I mean, they only dressed 2 seniors, a boatload of juniors, but it's great to have a freshman out there playing with confidence like he is.
Gliding in, but missing the rim is Davion Joyner. McKelvey rolls off the follow, and then down to the floor goes Joyner. They got a jump ball. And the possession favors Goose Creek.
Joyner holding his elbow there. Wanted the timeout.
Potts turns down the 3 to drive on McKelvey and skip one back across the lane. Batted around in the arms of Amlett, and a whistle.
Going the other way.
I'd like to see more of this matchup. Joyner, Britt.
Yeah.
There are rumors of a one-on-one league potentially getting started up. That's for another day, though. Potts stops on a dime and lays it in. It's 5 straight now for the freshman Potts to open up a 3-point lead.
Just so smart. And that's something that's very rare, especially at this age level. Doesn't matter what grade you are, but from a freshman. He knew McKelvey was right behind him, and that ball was going right into our camera person's lens, right under that basket.
Textbook. You got a double team with help coming from the backside. Lob it up to McKelvey, who finishes with contact. He's got 12 and a chance at a 3-point play.
Risky pass inside by Joyner, but pays off. Good defense there by Goose Creek. Got a guy in front, got a guy in back, but that ball was placed exactly where he needed it, and McKelvey finishing it off.
Offensive board for Daniel Lee, and it's cleared out by Goose Creek's Malik Walker. 1-point lead for the Gators as they work through this pressure unsuccessfully. Joyner picks it off, and Joyner steps on the sideline.
He does not like that call. McLevine's got his hands on his hips too. We're gonna need the pylon cam out here, I'm thinking.
We've got that. This 4-camera show has a couple of cameras situated, inside the court.
Right. We're gonna send it to New York, actually.
Like if you're watching the baseball all-star game and you got the cameras inside the bases, that's what we have here at Goose Creek.
Of course. We've got every angle covered. Just not that one.
Largest lead was 7. That was at 11-4. A big run for Goose Creek put them on top. There have been back and forth lead changes 7 different times. But ever since that opening 7-point lead, this has been a pretty even matchup of 2 different styles of play. Omar Green is going to head to the free throw line. That foul is going against Daquan Amlett.
And he was coming in at 75 miles an hour. We're going to clock him at that.
Some moderate foul trouble to keep an eye on for Goose Creek. Taylor has 3. Amlett has now picked up his 3rd. Pott and Britt both have 2. As a Will Lou Gray free throw goes down for Omar Green.
And we've talked about the depth of both of these teams, and it's just something this Goose Creek side lacks, especially up against Fort Dorchester.
Yeah, if they start to find themselves in deeper foul trouble, the tempo of this game will become even more of a factor. Ninth lead change of the game, 31-30 Patriots, and nearly a turnover. Here's Potts, who sends McKelvey flying by and shorts an 18-footer. Only matchup of the year. Two teams in different regions. 7-5A for Goose Creek, 8-5A for Fort Dorchester. Joyner lost it. May have been poked free there by Taylor. Halfway through this third quarter. This is the matchup I wanted, Britt and Taylor. Instead, it's Potts. And now Britt for a deep three, and he connects. The junior has been on varsity since his freshman year. He's got 7 and another lead change.
Britt needed that. He leads the team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, you name it. But has been quiet so far tonight.
There he is again, cleaning up the McKelvey miss. Yeah, the 7 have been a hard-earned 7 tonight for Justin Britt. None of it's coming easily. He works into the chest of Daniel Lee, and he will draw the foul here on Lee.
Bang. He was ready for it. Sometimes you just need one to fall, so I'm interested to see how he finishes this quarter and the fourth.
3:18 to go in the third quarter. Goose Creek leads it by 2 on QFS Transportation. High school hoops driven by Cruise Chef. Find Britt, he's not going to the line, but he just drew that foul on Lee. If he can take over this game, that would benefit him. Yep. Darren Goldwater, Natalie Spalla with you on My TV Charleston for QFS Transportation. High school hoops driven by Cruise Chevrolet, and there's Justin Britt. The athlete on the floor garnering the most Division I interest, only a junior right now. A slow first half. You can sense him starting to take this game over in the second.
100%, and we said it earlier, he's the Batman of their guys. He might have played a little bit of a Robin role in that first half, but since he has taken over.
Blake Hall said it's been a bit of a learning process, but you pointed out there's only 2 seniors dressing for Goose Creek. Someone needs to shoulder that responsibility. Tied up inside, dangerously close to a violation, and there it is. Trey Baylor turns it over.
And going back to what you just mentioned, Hall said, this team, quite simply, it just lacks maturity. It lacks a guy who can really just take control, a leader essentially. So he's got a few of those guys. He's mentioned Britt, he's mentioned Dates. These guys have potential to really take over that leadership role. It kind of just matters and depends on who takes over in one game.
These are 2 very, very good coaches, both of whom have extensive experience at the AAU and youth levels as well. These are 2 programs that don't just start with B team and JV. I mean, these guys go back into middle school and maybe even before that as well to get them ready to elevate into these programs. There's Daniel Lee cleaning it up on the second chance, and another tie game. It's 33-all. Lee almost swiped that one. It could turn into numbers for the Gators. Here's Potts wisely pulling up at the free throw line, but he's off the mark.
And Goose Creek thus far has done a good job at settling down and getting that ball past half court with this Patriot pressure. But it's been a little suspect sometimes. Right place, right time right there for Daniel Lee, finishing it off after a couple of, again, second and third chance opportunities.
I'd venture a guess. Maybe not half, but about a third, if not more, of the Fort Dorchester points are second chance opportunities.
Yeah, I like those odds.
Yeah. The majority of their first 11 were second chance points. Then Goose Creek cleaned that up. And that was one of the keys to the game that we discussed. Blake all pointed it out. We can't be giving up second and third chances. When they cleaned that up, they got back into the game.
Right.
And now that it's rearing its head again, here's Fort Dorchester.
And we've seen it on the scoreboard, this back and forth, these runs, and really the key to this one, or it's looking like it, is who can limit the other team's runs. If that's the case, then it's going to be who's going to be walking away from this one with a victory tonight. Both have done a really stellar job in kind of shifting that momentum and really garnering that momentum for their squad.
A couple of Will Lou Gray free throws for Tavion McPherson. He has 7 points. And to your point, Natalie, the runs, the extended runs, have largely come to a close. That's why we have now 11 different lead changes.
Right.
Because we're going back and forth on many different baskets. Another deep three. Dates is making a living, going well outside his comfort zone. He has 13 points.
That's one of those guys that said, hey, Hall, coming from Hall, he said this is one of those guys that needs to step up and needs to be a leader. Nice extra pass there by Dante Taylor. Very unselfish play. Looks like he could have pulled up.
Dates has 3 threes in this game tonight. He has a team-high 30 threes on the year. And entering the night, hit about 30% of his threes. Britt doesn't have his Dates impression down. And it's 1 and done for the Gators. And they turn it over to the Patriots here on back-to-back possessions.
Just a little too quickly there, Camden Crumney. Good penetration there by Omar.
Just judging off some of the reactions of the guys on the floor wearing red. I wonder at what point, if the point comes, the frustration sets in, that they can't play the style they've been used to for most of the year. 3rd consecutive turnover now, stepping on the sideline in front of their bench.
You're seeing the coaches over there on the Patriots side. Hey, calm down. Let's take care of business. Let's be poised. And that was one of the points McElveen made, is we need to just play controlled. We know what we need to do. It's just a matter of really just doing it and understanding that this Goose Creek team is not going to give up. They're not going to make things easy.
Nothing good was going to come from that. It was either going to be a turnover or a foul. The foul is going to come, and that's probably the worst case scenario for Taylor. That's his 4th. So Taylor has to take a seat. He had 7 points in the first half. And Blake Holt said he thinks he's probably his best on-ball defender. So in a game like this, you don't want your best on-ball defender heading to the bench with 4 fouls. Earlier this year, we had a Goose Creek football game. And when I was talking to their coach early in the day before the game, he was lining the field. Now Goose Creek's basketball coach brings the towel out to wipe up sweat. You can do a little bit of everything at the high school level.
Versatility off the chart.
McKelvey fights for his own rebound. And this is on the floor. We got a jump ball, and possession favors Goose Creek. Nothing's coming easily for the Patriots. They opened this half with 3 straight points. Since then, they've had to work for everything. Goose Creek's been able to rein in a couple of threes. Dates in particular. A little bit off the mark looking for Potts. But it was touched by Fort Dorchester. That's why it deflected awkwardly with 18 seconds left in the third.
He wanted Potts on the receiving end of that. Maybe a bounce pass. Mix in a bounce pass. That could have gotten to him.
Was that your go-to playing
It
up
might
at
have
Michigan?
been. That's,
Okay.
I'm a big advocate for the bounce pass. You know, a little fake up high, down low. Tricks him every time.
Yeah, can do a lot of good. 6 seconds left in the quarter. It's Britt rejected. Daniel Lee turns it over.
He knows it.
So it's 4 or 5 at least straight possessions for Fort Dorchester, empty possessions.
We were talking about runs, and the runs we were talking about this evening were runs with points. Some 6 and 7 runs are extended, really, where am I going with this?
The extended runs.
They're
Yeah.
extended runs, but the runs we're now seeing are these runs of turnovers, and that's never a good sign.
Let's see what Blake Hall designs. He calls a timeout with 1 second left in the third quarter. This is one of those teachable moments, not just for this game, but heading down the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those plays that while this is a third quarter opportunity, this is one of those that you can draw up again at the end of the half, end of the game, if you're in a tight game, in a playoff type scenario, because this is a playoff level game against Fort Dorchester right now.
100%. Yeah, you never know when you're going to need a play like this. Especially, like you said, it's a third quarter, not a fourth quarter setup here, but nerves play a role in regardless of what quarter it is. When you're down 1, when you're up 1, doesn't matter.
They get the ball in the front court because the violation occurred just about at midcourt. And if you get something around the rim, maybe the result is another foul on Fort Dorchester. Potts won't get it off. Although, I think they would have counted it had it actually gone. Nonetheless, it doesn't, and it's 36-35. 12 lead changes through 3 quarters. Justin Britt's gotten on track for the Gators on QFS Transportation High School Hoops, driven by Cruise Chevrolet. Elijah Dates has 13. Taylor and Britt both have 7 for Goose Creek. 12 for McKelvey. 10 of those came in the opening quarter for Fort Dorchester. 6 apiece from Omar Green and Tavion McPherson. And all that adds up to a 1-point lead for Goose Creek in a game that's featured 12 lead changes. Natalie Spala, I'm Darren Goldwater. Glad you're with us for what should be an exciting finish on QFS Transportation High School Hoops. One of the easiest buckets of the night for Omar Green. He's got 7.
Might have been surprised by how easy that one was. He's been getting banged up down there in the paint all night long. He's been fighting for those points.
Devin Geddes reaches in and ties him up, but the jump ball stays on this end of the floor here with Goose Creek.
Joyner finds him. That's another defender coming out, playing in help, so he was into the right spot, but just coming out too quick. Offense takes advantage.
Something to keep an eye on here. Goose Creek's committed 16 fouls in this half. Potts doesn't get that roll. Johnson knocks it back out to the perimeter. A chance to run for the Patriots. Green throws it off the shoelaces of Daniel Lee. And I'm not sure if anybody saw it clearly. They're going to give this over to Goose Creek.
I think that's the right call. Maybe. Joyner pleading his case.
So they've committed 16 fouls, Goose Creek has. From the next foul on, Fort Dorchester is shooting free throws for the rest of this game. And while you note that, also note Dante Taylor has 4 fouls, and he's on the bench with 7 points for Goose Creek, one of their leading scorers in this game. So does Goose Creek, already with less depth than Fort Dorchester, have enough to survive the Patriots? They get a foul on the 3-point shooter, and that will send Elijah Dates to the line for 3 free throws.
Good relocation by Dates. Joyner coming in a little crazy, gets him on the hand.
A Will Lou Gray free throw. And 2 more of them now coming up. A rich tradition of individualized learning. Blake Hall said Dates is garnering some Division II interest. He said he's just a late bloomer. Huge basketball IQ, and now as he physically matures, he'll have more and more opportunities at the next level.
He knocks down the second. Ties it up again.
Opportunity missed for Goose Creek. Game now tied. He's got 14 points. There's Green getting the roll as he tries to assertively affect the outcome on the offensive end of the floor. Geddes picks up.
Just a little too aggressive there from Geddes. I believe that's his 3rd.
Him and McKelvey are on the floor together. That has not been a regular combination throughout this game. And it's Green on the perimeter who comes away with the steal and hoists it up ahead to Lee. Lee gets by Britt, and it's a 4-point lead for Fort Dorchester, their largest in quite some time.
They continue with this pressure. Goose Creek has handled it well so far.
Largest lead since they led 11-4.
Green just getting in there, being a pest. Daniel Lee finishing it off strong.
First 2 there for Lee.
And that's Dates taking it in.
Running out of room for Dates. He's got 16. And a foul on the other end, an and 1 try as Britt is whistled for the block.
We're just exchanging buckets now. He wanted that charge. He thought he had it.
It may be forget about me as the team motto for Fort Dorchester, but right about now they should forget about themselves and all look towards Omar Green because his aggressive nature on offense, dictating the tempo offensively, that's what's changed the momentum slightly right now for the Patriots.
And I want to go back to what Coach McLevine said. He's the guy who looks like he's not trying. He looks lackadaisical. I haven't seen that really from him. Or maybe he's just really good at kind of staying low-key until moments like that where he steps up. But he is making his presence known all night so far.
He's pretty much carried him here in this fourth quarter.
McLevine said not too many people can stop him. And that's definitely been the case here tonight.
I have Omar Green at 11 points. Slightly different from the official score. I guess we should go with the official score here as the Will Lou Gray free throw falls for.
Perhaps, but I love the effort, Darren.
Thank you.
Darren doesn't just talk. He's also over here keeping track himself. Me, I just talk.
I mostly just do my best to talk about what's actually happening.
Hope I make sense, right?
Pressure starting to get to Goose Creek. Shane Potts has it swatted away by Geddes and out of bounds.
And Potts wants to take control of this one. Go ahead.
Another turnover. It's Green. It's Lee. And it's 2 more for Daniel Lee.
We were waiting for something like that from someone. It's coming with 5 minutes left.
Points off turnovers, changing this game in the fourth quarter. It's 5 straight points for the Patriots, their largest run since the opening quarter. And more free throws coming their way.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about runs back and forth, momentum shifts, and really how the other team responds. So far in this fourth quarter, it's all Patriots. There's still time left, though. We're going to have to see. Goose Creek's got time. But momentum, all Patriots, and there's good reason for that after that Lee throwdown.
Lee earns himself another.
He's a 2-year starter. He's someone Coach McLevine says came back the most polished from the offseason.
He's got 1 out of 2 from the Will Lou Gray free throw line. The pressure's gotten to Goose Creek. Here's Omar Green. Justin Britt still won't let go. The bad news for him, it's going to stay with Fort Dorchester on that held ball. Natalie, I said not too long ago, I wonder how much longer until the lack of the Patriots' ability to get out and run and play their style frustrates them. Well, the script got flipped because the pressure from Fort Dorchester has flustered Goose Creek here in the fourth.
100%. They were putting on a little bit of a pressure cooker. With this full court press, Goose Creek has handled it well all night. There's been instances where things looked a little shaky, but for the most part, they've carried it well, but coming up in the fourth where it perhaps matters the most.
Look at that floater. It's another foul that'll put Green back at the free throw line. Currently a 10-2 run for the Patriots, who have scored 5 straight overall to open up their largest lead of the game with 4:52 to go. And that was a foul on Taylor, so Dante Taylor has fouled out of the game. The best on-ball defender for Goose Creek picks up his 5th with just under 5 minutes to go.
Daquan Amlett takes his spot. Another junior. This Goose Creek team lacks no shortage of juniors. A lot of guys coming back next year.
And I think it's fair to say what we've discussed throughout the game, the depth and the 8 seniors compared to the 2,
right,
Fort Dorchester and Goose Creek. It's a big difference here as you work down into crunch time.
And no coach is ever going to come to us and say, yes, that matters. They're always going to tell us, nope, we've got guys in these spots that can play their role and they know what to do.
Britt thought that one was in when it left his hand. Potts had it knocked away underneath, and here come the Patriots again. One of those 8 seniors, Davion Joyner. And another one, Omar Green. It's really been Green's show, particularly in the fourth quarter here. This will be Geddes heading back to the line.
For those familiar with this Fort Dorchester side, and especially with their football team, Geddes' name called pretty much all night for the Patriots. He's making his presence known here tonight.
Geddes deserves a whole lot of credit for the Patriots being in the game as they were at the half. They were down by 1 because he steadied things. When McKelvin went out with a couple of fouls at the end of the first quarter, I asked the question, how does the game plan change? The answer was it didn't, because Geddes came in, had 5 points in the second quarter, and was a steadying force underneath. And in the second half, they've been on the floor together, and that's also affected Goose Creek. There's been nothing around the rim, as evidenced here for Potts. Geddes wants it, and Lee tosses it out of bounds.
His coaches don't like that. The key to this game was going to be staying composed, play at a pace that you can stay controlled at, and that one got away from them.
A 10-point lead for Fort Dorchester, 3:47 left. QFS Transportation High School Hoops driven by Cruz Chevrolet. It's 8 straight for Fort Dorchester. Now, this game was tied at 37 in the very early stages of the fourth quarter. In fact, a free throw, a bucket to start the fourth quarter, put Fort Dorchester up 37-36. Goose Creek tied it with a free throw, and since then it has been all Fort Dorchester. And what McElveen said to me earlier today when I asked him about the shooting disparity, he said, look, we get a lot of our offense from our turnovers, from generating points off of our turnovers. And here in the fourth quarter, their depth, their veterans, Omar Green in particular, they've widened that gap.
Yeah, everything is clicking for this team, and you got to give credit where credit's due for this Goose Creek team, who has really handled it extremely well. I mean, their coach said, we're just a young group, we lack maturity, and at the end of the day, I think that's what Fort Dorchester has, and really what set them aside with this 3 minutes left in this game, and they're up 10.
And if this is a measuring stick game, and I think that's fair to say for Goose Creek, it gives you a pretty good idea if you're Blake Hall. For 3 quarters, you weren't only right with, you were in large part dictating the game with one of the better teams in the area until foul trouble, depth, kind of got away from you. And you don't have McKelvey, who now has 14, but 10 of those were in the opening quarter. McKelvey's really taken pride in his defense. You've seen him cleaning up things around the rim quite often when he's been on the floor.
And ball movement was a big part of really what made this team flow. And part of that ball movement is moving when you don't have the ball. And you see McKelvey there with a nice cut to the basket, finishing it off.
Well-designed play results in an easy 2 for Walik Walker. 6 points now for Walker, and that snaps a 10-0 run.
Goose Creek gonna implement a little bit of their full court press.
But their foul trouble is such where they can only be so aggressive.
Right.
Taylor's already fouled out. Every foul puts him at the line for the double bonus. An official's timeout.
And a lot of time you press because you want to slow the other team down, but that hasn't really been the case with this Patriots team. They have played anything but slow this evening. They are full speed ahead right to that basket.
Geddes takes advantage of Amlett coming too hard out at him, and Geddes banks one in. He's got 8. Goose Creek has won 7 of its last 8 games. The Patriots entered tonight 13-1. Britt hustling as the junior tumbles his way out of bounds. And Goose Creek takes possession. Or do that.
There are bodies just all over the place now.
He'll stay with the fort.
Surprised something wasn't called there.
Geddes more comfortable underneath. And the Patriots get bailed out with the kick ball there on the perimeter. Two guys familiar with hitting each other in pads. Jaden Johnson, Devin Geddes. For a while, Johnson, 42 in white, was committed, I believe, to Howard. He's the center for the Goose Creek football team, and then ended up going to SC State. It wouldn't shock me, although I don't know this, if Demetrius Simmons committing to SC State influenced that decision.
Oh.
Go there together. 2 more free throws now for Fort Dorchester, as Malik Walker picks up his 4th foul.
The pace of this one's starting to slow down. 2 minutes left.
Taylor's already fouled out. Walker has 4.
Lee was the leading scorer last Tuesday when this team faced off against. Oops, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Nope, this was. Nope, no, I'm not. Never mind. Reverse. Lead 19 points against Ashley Ridge. They had a dominating win on Tuesday.
Both teams coming off a dominant win.
Right, yes.
Goose Creek beat Berkeley by about 30. Here's Walker, who just picked up his 4th foul. He had a lane. McKelvey closed it as Johnson navigates into traffic. Britt from NBA range. There it is for Justin Britt. He heated up briefly in the 3rd and has 10 points now. Omar Green fouled. Walker fouls out. And 2 free throws coming for Green.
Walker trying to plead his case. The big fella. Floor general, Jaden Johnson. Finds his guy on the outside.
Freshman will replace a senior. Malik Walker fouls out. Shane Potts enters the game. The demeanor for Blake Hall hasn't changed once during this game, and I think it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. when Blake won a state championship with North Charleston in his first and only year with North Charleston, he told me he woke up the next morning and he said, really, is this it? I don't want to be sitting around chasing rings. I want something deeper than that. I want more meaning in coaching. And he said that was the biggest blessing in his career, to realize I'm not just going to sit around chasing rings. It's about these kids. So you're not going to see him get too high or too low during a regular season game, however big that regular season game might be. Because at the end of the day, it's about the development of these young men.
Right. And in order to really be someone who can affect change and can really be an impact on these kids' lives, is to really just pass on that example of never get too high, never get too low. And he's been poised himself. He told us earlier this week that we're going to need to be controlled in this one. We're going to need to not let our emotions get the better of us. And he's been exactly that this whole night.
Even as his team has turned it over, leading to points and buckets like that from Davion Joyner. An emphatic capper with a minute to go from Joyner that puts him up by 17. We should say 13.
And McLevine loves it. Pass from Omar. He got up there.
Good times for that Joyner bloodline. An MVP performance in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Two cousins, Omar Green and Davion Joyner, starring on the football field and basketball court for the Patriots. A lot of good vibes along that bloodline as the 13-point lead shows with 54 seconds left and a timeout on the floor. This wasn't easy for Fort Dorchester. You wake up tomorrow, you read the story in the Post-and-Courier, you see highlights from Iceberg tonight on ABC News 4, and you see the final score. And you're going to say, yeah, you know, a 14-1 team, they went to Goose Creek and they took care of business. This game, I remind you, was tied at 37 in the opening seconds of the fourth quarter. And then turnovers, depth, experience, flat out took over for the Patriots.
Yeah, this one was a battle. And that's what we want week in and week out. And credit to both of these sides for really providing that for these fans here tonight and for those watching at home.
McLevine can enjoy the last few seconds of this one. Tomorrow he can watch his buddy Earl Grant. Close friends since the 7th grade. They graduated Stall High School together, played at Stall together. Former coach at the College of Charleston, Earl Grant, now leading Boston College. Interesting game with the Clemson Tigers coming up tomorrow. Clemson trying to bounce back from a loss at Notre Dame. Brownell's got an interesting looking group. If they can keep things together, I think it is a potential tournament team. South Carolina, meanwhile, an opportunity to bounce back after a very ugly performance against Tennessee. They've got Florida, winless in the SEC, Florida, coming to Columbia tomorrow.
South Carolina women were also in action yesterday. Took care of Texas A&M. It's another game that it really looked like could have been anyone winning. It looked very much like this game tonight. Both even, going through the quarters, but South Carolina pulling away in the end. Very South Carolina of them.
Dawn Staley has built a juggernaut. Almost half of the team's wins are against top 25 teams.
Right.
And they've got UConn coming up in a couple of games. Big man to big man. McKelvey hits Geddes. And it's 61-48 with less than 30 seconds to go, but the Patriots aren't done turning over the Gators or ripping off a couple more highlights. Capers looked up at the clock, almost lost it out of bounds. Omar Green backs it out, and that'll be it. The Patriots withstand a push from Goose Creek. The Gators dictated the tempo for the large portion of 2.5 quarters, really, midway through the first through the third. And then the Patriots took over in the fourth and ran away with this 63-48. We'll come back for a trophy presentation and a conversation with Thomas McElveen as the Patriots win it on the road on QFS Transportation High School Hoops, driven by Cruz Chevrolet. You can ask people who know me. I would rarely.
Yeah,
in 20 years. And I'm good with it. Coach and players are not out here and may not know that they're supposed to be talking. So there's really no point in filling. Oh, here he comes. Good job.